will see.
Huh. I may have to pick this back up again after you try this, because I don't know if I want my wife seeing them all or not. That's my biggest concern, to be honest. So does your family ever see any of these, or?
Yeah, they knew that it was there. I would watch them come from my bedroom and leave out my bedroom door. And one night I was laying in bed, and I seen this dark figure come from my bathroom, through my bedroom, and out the door. And I remember seeing him when I was younger. But the next day, my wife told me that my daughter said that this dark figure was standing next to her bed, and she did not like it. They begged me to move out of this house, and I'm telling these guys, I'm trying to convince them this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, okay?
Right.
And I was going to try to capture one, okay? I'm glad I didn't, because every time I showed them not to underestimate me, they showed me back not to underestimate them. So,
yeah, I get that. They make that pretty clear, don't they?
Yes, they have. But, yeah, they would even eat our fish, my daughter's fish.
Really?
I'm telling you, we'd go to bed at night, the fish are fine, wake up in the morning, there's skeletons laying on the bottom of the fish tank.
Wow.
And they said, well, maybe your cat got it. Well, there's no water, and the cat can't get in a 1-inch hole where you feed them.
Right.
And then one time I was working on my truck out in my garage in the middle of the night, and then I walked by the fish aquarium, and I did see them in there. And then my son came in there a few minutes later and said the aliens got the fish again. I said, what? I said, just a minute. So we walked right back in, and sure enough, the water was a milky gray, and it was bones on the bottom of the fish. They're stripped of their flesh. They're in one piece.
See, that's weird to me, because I haven't had, other than that, what we have going on sounds really similar, but I haven't had anything like that at all. My dog totally freaks out about him. He can smell them. I've had him walk around. I've talked about him a couple times on the show, but he'll come to the end of the bed. Came to the end of the bed one time when I knew they were there, and it's just sniffing it, and he freaks out about them.
Right. My cats, they would freak out about it too. The cats did not like what was going on.
Right.
So
that's crazy.
My son, they would come in his room, and he'd know they was in there. He could say he can feel them walking on the bed. It feels like a very light person walking, but you can see the imprints of the blankets impressing in as they walk, and they'll straddle on top of you, and they'll gas you too. And a lot of people say that they float you out of the house.
Right.
I have never been floated out of the house. They have brought somebody in that was big enough to carry you out of the house. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean you're floating, but it gives you the sensation of floating.
So you actually, so it sounds like yours is a little different than mine. So you're actually able to experience this in real time then, or is it?
Oh yeah.
Really?
I waited for him. I actually brought one of my friends over, and because he kept saying, David, you're sounding psychotic. I said, well, first of all, you don't know the meaning of psychotic. You call me psychotic. I'm not asking for help from nobody. This is the coolest thing that's ever happened. And I said, you got to come over and check this out. And he said, well, are they going to bother me? I said, well, you don't believe me, and you sound, why are you worried about them bothering you?
Right.
To just come over and check them out. And I finally talked him into it. And this is a big, tough guy, okay? I brought him over, and we waited, and about 1:30 was peak time for me. And he was sitting on the end of my bed, and these guys are coming in the room, and you could see him. And he touched him, put his hands on him. He had tears coming out of his eyes. He said, Dave, I'll never doubt you again. And this is funny. The very next morning, he stayed the night that night. He woke up, and I said, what do you think about that? You think I'm crazy still, huh? He says, David, you power suggested me to see that.
Wow.
How in the heck did I do that? But I should have never showed him, because he really had a tough time after that.
You know, man, and I found the same thing, too, is that people will do I think it's just because us humans, we have to put everything in a reality, and so it breaks that entire reality. So for me, man, my whole world almost crumbled when this first started happening to me, and I had to build back up like I was learning to walk again, because it just, everything I knew ends up, wasn't quite right. So I think that's why people do it, but same thing to me. My wife does it some, but she'll see the stuff that's completely undeniable, and then the next day she's like, I'm not so sure, but...
Right, yeah, it's easy to second guess yourself, and that's because your brain's trying to put it together. It really is, and it struggles because there's missing information, and things happen so fast.
Right.
And you're not really sure, but I'm talking about this was going on for almost 7 years, and it actually started before I moved into this house over here, because I had a house in Gulf Breeze, Florida.
Okay.
And one day I was in there, and I was getting ready to eat dinner, and I sat down on the couch, and I seen something that come out of the kitchen, went down my hallway and into my bedroom, but it looked like a bunch of bouncing balls, bouncing and ricocheting off each other like a human figure. And went down. I said, "Wow, I sat down too fast." And that's when I started seeing them again. We moved into this other house, and so they obviously was keeping an eye on me for a while. But my very first experience is when I first moved to Gulf Breeze, Florida, and this was registered with Newfound. That we ran into one of these alien creatures that looked just like that one in my doorway. And I actually chased him through the woods, me and 2 other buddies. And I could outrun him clearly, and I couldn't bring myself to tackle him because I didn't know what the heck he was. I thought it was somebody who was fooling around with a mask on.
Wow.
And then I was looking at the back of his head. I thought it was one of these little kids that had that old man looking disease, and the moon was shining on the back of his head, and I could smell him. He had like an ether kind of smell to him, and I wanted to tackle him because I could clearly outrun him, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I was too scared because it's like touching, like touching a spider, it's like you don't know if it's going to bite you.
Exactly, man.
But, I did a hypnotic regression on that by a lady called Boots Eckert. She was part of a Newfound. She did a hypnotic regression, and she did it for free. And all I asked, this was like 12 years after that incident. And that was like my first really contact. There's a long story on that one, but that was like my first one, and it took me years to digest that one. And then I don't know if they just started coming back or if they was with me when I was a kid, because strange things would happen when we was kids all the time. And
what kind of stuff did you get as a kid?
It's like my sister, she claimed that a UFO landed in the backyard and took us. And me and my brother beat her up for it because it was just sounding too crazy.
Right.
but she was like the first one to really come to this thing, and she swore that it happened, and it's like we always just kind of blew it off, but she swears to this day that it happened. And then when all this happened, and I told my sister about it, she's like, "I'm telling you this." I said, "Tell me everything you remember,"
Right.
And she told me that's a long story too, but we don't remember it. I mean, I remember her telling us that it happened that night, but my brother had an incident in the shed, like things were flying at him and stuff, and although I'd never experienced that too, but that was we thought maybe it was a ghost or whatever, but I had psychics work on my stuff, and they believed me, and it's like I don't know if it's been all my life. I'm pretty much sure it has, but
right.
I just didn't start recognizing it until we moved into this house, and I was forced into dealing with it. Forced.
Right. I know the feeling. And something that they've recently taught me too, that not everybody buys this who's experienced it, because it's sort of it's a weird thing to digest, I think, for a lot of people. But what they tell me is that the reason why people have experiences, and it usually is their entire life, is because we are hybrids that they made up in the tubes and abducted women and put us in the womb and all that, and they tag us from the beginning and check up on us, and that's the reason why some people experience and some don't. So I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it's that's what they've been telling me lately. Yeah, most people are like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," but
it's true. I had the psychics tell me, "Oh, you're a star child and all this. You're here on a mission." What mission? I don't know.
Right.
It's like I know they can come and visit me, and they do have an interest, and everybody asks me, "Well, why do you think they're coming to visit you?" I don't know, mistaken identity. They thought I was Batman or something. I don't know. but they. I mean, that sounds crazy, but I'm sure they have their reason, and they know that I could see them when even they're transparent. I mean, some of them get upset because I can see them.
Really?
Yeah, they start getting. I mean, they really get upset, but some of them think it's funny. But when they tell somebody that's in my house